So the next tip is contracts. Now, contracts is one of the things that are my bugbear. I cannot stand contracts. And I've made some notes on some points I'm going to cover as to why contracts are so important and why the general public needs to know more about what these contracts are. Now, firstly, every single estate agent will have a contract of some form that they will have you sign to say that you're willing to engage in business with that person. It could be known as the sole agency agreement or an agency agreement or a terms of business. Whatever way they dress it up, a contract is a contract. The thing is with contracts, and what I need to make clear before I go into any of this, I've got to be perfectly clear with it. The contract that you are signing with that estate agency is there for the estate agent's benefit. It's not there for your benefit. There is nothing in that contract that is there to protect you. It's all there to protect that agent's commission and their business with you. It's there to protect them. It's not there to protect you. I think the moment you understand that, everything else is going to make sense. But it's one of the things that really irritate me, that people don't realise that these contracts are there to protect that agency. So the points that I've noted down on here that I'm going to cover, the first thing is the cooling off periods. Now the cooling off period starts at the beginning of the contract. It lasts for 14 days and it means that you have got the right to cancel that contract within that 14 days and not incur any penalties. Now lots of people don't know about this 14-day cooling off period, and I speak to so many homeowners that have gone on the market, they've had the agent round, they've delivered a great pitch, they've got stuck in this whirlwind or this tornado that the agent has kind of pushed along to get the pictures done quickly, either while the agent is there or the following day, and get that property on the market as soon as possible. And before you know it, you're on the market with that agent and it's happened almost overnight. And then the agent drops the ball. They don't deliver the promises, they don't deliver on what they say, and you can be disappointed with the service pretty quickly. Now normally it only takes a couple of days to kind of suss that out. You see the service levels drop, particularly if you're not dealing with the same person. So what you find is that 14-day call-off period is a good point to kind of suss out what's going on with that agency, but also to pull out of that transaction, to pull out of marketing with that agency and start again. 52% of people instruct the second agent who ends up selling their house. 52% of people, the first agent they pick isn't the one that sells the property. They switch to this second agent before the property sells. That speaks volumes. Only 48% of people get it right the first time round. So that speaks absolute volumes that it's very easy to get sucked into that pitch and very easy to get stuck in that whirlwind and not know your rights. The 2-week cooling off period starts at the start of that contract and you can cancel at any point and not incur any costs. I can't be clearer than that. Make sure you read terms and conditions in regards to that. Ask the agent about a cooling off period and ask them to explain to you their cooling off period and what charges you're likely to incur if you cancel during that period. It's so important. The second point is the notice periods. Now, a lot of agents have notice periods on their contracts. Now, their contracts generally have a term. Now, the term is the amount of time that you are stuck with that agency on an agreement. That means you cannot list with any other agent during that agency. It's often known as a sole agency agreement or a sole selling rights agreement, where you're stuck with that agency for a period of time. Now, be very careful with this term, because I hear lots of agents doing 10, 12, 14, even 20 weeks I've heard recently. It is ridiculous. Signing into a term with an individual is the equivalent of me going in and applying for a job and saying to that boss, will you guarantee me a job for 3 months, no matter how bad I am, no matter how many times I turn up late, no matter how poor of a service I give you, do you guarantee my wages for 3 months? Yes, they're not going to say that. They're not going to say that. Having a long term on the contracts is the equivalent of saying that. Do you guarantee me your business, no matter how bad I am at this job? If you're willing to sign a new contract, more for you. That's as silly as as blunt as I'm going to put it. I believe it should be a 0-week contract. If you're that confident in your service and you're that confident in your level of ability and you're that confident you're going to deliver all your promises, you do not need to tie that client into a 12-week contract to keep them stuck in that contract. It's as clear as that. So be aware of these terms, because you could be stuck for a bloody long time with them agents. But even worse, and coming back to my original point, the notice period. Now, a lot of these agents, when you go through their terms and conditions, and make sure you ask the agency about this, what is your notice period? Because there will be a period. It's normally 2 weeks, although some of the guys locally are doing 3 weeks now. whereby when you've had enough of that contract and when you've run to the end of that contract, you can't just cancel it, you've got to give them notice. And when you give them notice, you've got to give them that notice period, and you've got to run out that notice period where you cannot go and market with another agent during that point. So make sure you ask them what that notice period is, and how long you need to give them notice for, because if you are out of your 2-week calling off period and you're stuck in a 10-week contract, give that notice as soon as you can to cancel that contract at the earliest possible date. Don't leave it until 10 weeks and then give that notice, because that contract is now 13 weeks. So be very aware of your notice periods before signing into that contract. Terms and conditions. Now, if I had a beeper that I can cover a swear word, I would certainly put it here. Read the bloody terms and conditions. I cannot be clearer than that. It's boring, nobody likes them, nobody enjoys reading them, it's not there for fun, it's not a novel, it's not going to be an interesting bloody Harry Potter book, it's certainly not going to be 50 Shades of Grey, it is going to bore you to tears. But bloody read them, because there is so many things in these terms and conditions that tie people up, from the calling off periods being waived, to the notice periods being extended, to additional costs that you may not be aware of. One agency locally has in their terms and conditions that if you cancel your contract with them and you leave them to go to another agent, there is a termination fee of £750. Now let's break that down a little bit. If you leave their agency because they haven't done their job and they haven't sold your property, and you change to another agency to get your property sold, you still have to pay the agency that's done nothing £750. What's more interesting about this is that wasn't explained to the client, and it was hidden in the terms and conditions. So before you sign any agency agreement, sit yourself down, get yourself a cup of tea and spend half an hour and read through them terms and conditions. If there is anything in them terms and conditions that you read twice and you cannot understand, question it. Ask the agent to explain it or remove it out of that terms and conditions. Be sure you know what you're signing into before you sign into it. That's my clearest message here. Be sure what you're signing into before you sign into it. Hopefully you found that helpful. Hopefully you can see how much these contracts bloody annoy me, and hopefully you found that valuable. But I'll look forward to the next tip. Thank you for watching.